Hello, you are watching The Rebel Nutritionist with me, Meryl Brandwine, and I'm the owner of the Brandwine Institute for Nutrition and Wellness, a holistic wellness center located in South Florida. I help my clients ditch diet fads and uncover the real truth about how food can truly heal your life. I know that together we can help you feel great. I'm excited to show you the way to long-term healthy living. So let's dive in and get started. Hello, everyone. I am Meryl Brandwine, and I am so excited to have Shari Coltune join us today for one of our first episodes. So, Shari, one of the reasons I wanted you to join me was because as a nutrition and genomics expert, I know it's not just about the food you eat. Wellness is really about what you eat, your lifestyle, your emotions, your movement, and of course, how we view the world. And because you are a master life coach who works with clients who struggle to make the changes they want, I wanted to have you so we can talk a little bit of how we all get in our own way, especially when it comes to health and nutrition.
Yeah.
So before we begin, tell me a little bit about your background and how you found your way into coaching.
Well, first, I really want to thank you for inviting me here today. I know we have a lot of conversations, and so I'm really excited. So what brought me here? I've been a certified life coach since I think 2011 or 2012. And yeah, I'm a certified shadow coach, and I'm a certified Heal Your Heart coach, and I'm also certified in boundary coaching through the Levin Life Coaching Academy. And I'm one of the mentors there that mentor the upcoming students. So it's great. So what brought me here? I had an ass print on my couch because I was a master couch potato. And I really lived my life. I didn't realize it was such fear-based, but I wasn't feeling well. I was fatigued beyond measure, and something had to give. But the more something had to give, the deeper the ass print in my couch became. Right?
Resistance.
Yeah, well, you know what? At first, it wasn't resistance. Yeah, I guess it was resistance, but it was really fear. It was such paralyzing fear and fatigued. And one day I was channel surfing, as a couch potato usually does, and I saw a coming attraction for the movie called The Shadow Effect. And it is by Debbie Ford, Deepak Chopra, and Marianne Williamson. And I just knew I had to watch this movie. And it really shed a lot of light into what was going on internally for me, that I was inconsolable. Mm-hmm. And I grabbed my computer because I'm like, who is this Debbie Ford? I have to talk to her. She has answers. And I grabbed my computer, and 2 weeks later, I saw she was speaking. I booked a ticket, and I met her, and therefore I'm on my journey to self-healing.
So talk a little bit, because you've also had some history with autoimmune, and
Yes.
That relates all into the work that you do as well. So
part of my couch potato and the fear base was that I did have an autoimmune issue, and it was debilitating. I hurt, and I was, it was hard to breathe, and it was, and I had body aches. Mm-hmm. And as I started healing my emotions, and I started recognizing where I was really taking myself out because of fear or resistance, I started gaining strength. And instead of hating my autoimmune disease, I actually find it a huge gift for me that as soon as if I start feeling like a flare up, I know that there's some emotional work that I need to do. So it ends up being a huge gift. Mm-hmm. Everything is a gift when you learn how to reframe it.
Right. So big. We'll get more into that because you and I talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
So when it comes to changing someone's diet or weight loss, what do you see as some of the things that people struggle with the most?
So it's very interesting. And me and you have had this conversation, especially when I first got into this work. It's like, me included, you included, we're all included. Your clients, they start off gung-ho, they're doing it and it's great. First week down, yes. Second week, it's good, it's great. Third week, that's when they start calling in. Oh, I need to reschedule. The old stuff starts creeping back. And it really is, there's a belief system and we all operate on an autopilot way about us. And the autopilot, it's there to protect us, but it's also there to take us out of what we actually say that we want. So what you're saying that you want in life, to achieve diet, I'm not going to eat that cake. I'm not going to eat that cake. But yet you have the voice of the inner critic is like, yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. And then you're in this internal battle with yourself. So no wonder why you're exhausted and fatigued and feel like, shit, because everything is lodged in your body. Yeah.
And so that brings up a point that we also talk about often. So just so you all know out there, Shari and I work very closely together. I refer a lot of clients to her because her work is just that good. And so some of the piece that we also talk about is that self-sabotaging behavior, which you kind of mentioned, right? But I think people don't think about it like that, right? They embark on this journey and they are gung-ho and they're like, yeah, and you and I both see it, week 4, week 5, we could say, oh, this is going to happen. And that's where people end up falling off. And so speak to that a little bit in terms of, because then people turn around and say they're failures, right? Oh, I knew I couldn't do this again. I'm going to fail again. How do you help them reframe that dialogue?
So we need to address the belief system, the unconscious filter that we are viewing our world with. Okay, it's unconscious. So if you're feeling like a failure and you're telling yourself you're a failure, that's your filter. And in order to make changes, we really need to find the willingness to feel worthy, to feel deserving, even if the change is very subtle. Mm-hmm. So I tell my clients all the time, we need to just trust the process, and everything is a process. So when you have a client that's like, I know I'm going to fail. Well, there's a reframe. So I would come in and we kind of would till the soil of the unconscious, because everything is operating in the unconscious, below the level of consciousness.
Right. We talk about, I was talking with someone else about this. It's what goes on up here in the mind is actually felt in the body. And so It's right. The subconscious becomes conscious in the body sometimes. So,
we do have a body brain, right? We have an ego brain, but we also have a body brain. And when our body brain is being stuffed down, is, not being addressed, a lot of people, Meryl, and I was included in this, that's part of my couch potato. And I ask my clients right off the bat, how are you with your emotions? Mm-hmm. Do you feel your emotions? Oh, yes, I do. And okay, so I will dig a little further. And the truth is, we don't. We're taught very early, do not feel anger, do not feel sadness. And, there's rage, there's grief. And it's not that you're going to walk around rageful or drowning in your grief. But we need to first acknowledge that it's there. And then we learn to set up structures in order to allow ourselves to feel, because feeling is so freeing, but it's really the most denied.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the things that we also talk about a lot along those lines is how to get people into the being rather than the doing, right? We're also busy doing and going and yet we aren't being. And I love that you had taught me that, and I'm like, I love that, right? So talk to us a little bit about that.
Because we're on autopilot. Meryl, have you ever, from your office and you're driving home and you pull into your driveway, and do you ever say, holy shit, how did I get here? Right? Right? All the time. Because we're on autopilot, right? And that we are so busy doing. And also it's part of a coping skill. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of people will busy themselves, right? Let me read another book. Let me try another diet. Let me focus on, something else. And when I start working with a client, one of the action steps that I actually tell them to do, I invite them to do, is to sit, not meditate, because meditate, although it does quiet the mind, you're still doing something. Mm-hmm. So I invite them to just sit for 2 to 5 minutes. And 9 times out of 10, they're like, I can't. Because you're so not used to just being present with your body, but you will learn to do it.
Right.
And yeah, it's like, I can't. And that is just an indication of a coping skill that it takes you out. So a lot of this, again, is going on unconsciously. And, and then what happens is you're raising the volume on your inner critic. And then your inner critic is like, you got to go do another thing. You got to go figure out something else. And I got to try this. And really it's just about, getting into your body.
Right. And I think, to that point, there's a lot of people who are just like, well, I have to just scratch off my to-do list. I've done this. And my saying is, your to-do list will be there when you're dead, because we're never done doing. And so I think, to that point, we do have to take a step back. If we really want to be successful at healing ourselves in so many ways, we have to take a moment. So, I really, I like that. I love that way of thinking. So here's an example, and I think people would love your feedback on this. So if you get caught up in the doing and that automatic response, right? So like having a glass of wine, having the sugar reward, or what else, they've committed to, let's say they know they need to give up the wine or the sugar, or whatever. How do you help them? Because, it's one thing, yes, we're hearing these things that they need to do, but how do you actually help them create that change? Because I do think a lot of people really, we throw the term life coach around, we throw the term health coach around, and we're going to get to this in a second as well. But I think really, what do you do to help them create the change that they want?
First, I really ask my clients, what is your willingness? Are you really committed? And sometimes you think yes, but then is there a willingness? And again, I go back to what I said in the beginning. Are you willing to teach yourselves how to feel worthy of that new commitment, worthy of that new change? And then creating certain boundaries, like a non-negotiable. And to give an example, yes, I'm one of your clients too. And I am not very compliant with my supplements, right? So I created, and I had to ask myself, really, what am I more committed to? And if I'm not committed to taking the supplements or to healing my body, then I have to really acknowledge it and then surrender to it and then just be with it. Because then the internal struggle becomes too much. And then what you're doing is you're amplifying the inner critic. And my goal is to help you quiet the voice of the inner critic and really amplify the voice of your inner cheerleader. So I teach my clients, first I ask them, what is your willingness? And sometimes I even say to them, busting yourself, really digging in and just being like, I'm just not committed. Great. So let's work with that. Let's work in that true acceptance. That will free you.
And I love that because, when we go back, and especially with clients who are coming in for weight loss, right?
Yeah.
And they've been on a diet and they want to get off that diet roller coaster, but that voice, and there's, like you talk about, amplification of failure and all that. And it really is about reframing all of this for them. And we often talk about their why. And it's not, the weight is not the why. There's more of a why, but the willingness, I think, is a huge piece of that. And
yeah,
piece that is so missing, because it's not just the why do you want to do this? Is it for your health? Is it right? You have to do it for you, but is there a willingness to make, like you said, these very small changes? Because that's what's so important. That's why this dialogue, and I'm so excited to be having this with you, and it certainly won't be the last time, but this dialogue does not happen enough, and especially in the weight management, weight loss industry, because the other voice, it's an industry, to me, it's very, we focus on the negative of what we can't do and what we can't achieve. And I love that, you put in the positive.
Yeah. And also, you know what, Meryl, we all have a story we tell ourselves. We have a story that we live by. Mm-hmm. And when we start making changes, subtle or even significant, what happens is we go into fear mode. Oh my God, who am I going to be if I give up that? Who am I going to be if I actually stick to my healthy living plan? Because I don't even want to call it a diet, right? It's healthy living, right? So who am I going to be if I actually say I'm going to do something and mean it and do it? Oh my God, it becomes very scary. And again, it's unconscious. So I go very slow. Debbie Ford has always said, you can only go as fast as the slowest part of you. And you got to meet yourself where you're at. So if you think you can run a marathon because you say you want to run a marathon and just think you can go out and run a marathon, you're going to set yourself up to fail. So I bring my clients all the way back to the beginning, and we go slow because you're not broken. You just need some refinement. Right. But we have to give up the story. We're so afraid to give up our story.
Yeah. Well, because our story is who we've become over the years, and again, I know the work that you've done with me. It's hard. It's hard work, but it is so liberating when you get there. And
busting yourself. It's like a little bee sting, right? It's like, ugh. But yet,
that did not feel good.
Right. But yet, when you heal that bee sting, it's like so freeing, Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's talk, I did mention that before, but the benefit of working with a health coach and a life coach together, or, maybe even clarifying, because again, these terms are just thrown around, and it seems like every time you look, there's someone who's saying, who you knew is now a coach of some sort.
Right. Yeah.
It's hard to discern in the industry really what is legitimate, what is going to legitimately help me, and how does that, and how am I working with an expert who knows what they're doing?
Right.
So maybe you can put some clarity to that for us.
Well, first of all, I wouldn't work with someone who's not certified, but who really, I wouldn't do that. But, I think working with your team it was my ideal. I work with you, I work with Michelle, and it's very nice to have, a team of people that really are caring for me, that are helping me, amplify the voice of my inner cheerleader. So what's bad about having a group of people, in your corner that are really very knowledgeable in their own way? So I'm a certified breakthrough shadow coach. I work with people's shadows. Mm-hmm. And so can I explain what a shadow is?
Please do. Absolutely. I mean, okay. I kind of want you to, what I'd like to do, because we do have the time, I think people are dying to know, what is the difference between what a shadow coach does and abandonment or the heal your heart? I mean, again, I know because I've been done it. But for those people who are like, well, wait a minute, this is a whole nother thing.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So, which I love to talk about. So the shadow part of ourselves is really the parts of ourselves that we are really icked out by. We do not want anybody to see this about ourselves. We don't want any, we can't even be with it, so much less the shame and the fear and the embarrassment of like you seeing something within me that I can't be with. So really, as a shadow coach, I kind of open you up, and I tell my clients all the time, you're tethered to me, but we got to go into the dark psyche of your consciousness so we can till the soil and raise your awareness. Because, and you know me, Meryl, I love my Dr. Phil, so don't call me during Dr. Phil. Don't do it. But the truth is, Dr. Phil does say you can't heal what you can't acknowledge. And acknowledgement is so important, that when we really acknowledge that there's parts of ourselves that we really rather not be, we raise the vibration, and then we can see how every aspect, quality, and emotion that we have within us is there as a gift. So I invite, anybody that's listening, number one, to read Rumi's poem, The Guest House. Because that is just inviting in every emotion and every quality, and it really fills my heart. Okay? And when you can make peace with a part of yourself, then you gain momentum. Mm-hmm. And in order to gain momentum, you can't operate unconsciously. But once you're at the mercy of some unconscious quality or emotion, and once you bring it to the consciousness, then you're in charge. It's not in charge of you. Mm-hmm. So emotions, right? We talk about autoimmune, we talk about health issues, and we talk about, blocked emotions. I kind of talk about with my clients, I'm like, hold your hands. If your palm is your body, yourself, and your fingers are, this is greedy, this is your failure, this is, your loser, fat, lazy, okay? So now you're not in alignment, you're not balanced, and you're not grounded, right? And I can't even pick up my pen, like, right? You just can't. So if as a shadow coach, I have you look at your lazy and see how the lazy part has actually been a gift to you. Maybe one of the gifts is it actually has you rest when you need to. The greedy part of you, maybe, like everything has a gift. So now you have a hand, and then you can hold. Right. So there's balance and grounding and alignment. And it does take work, and it does take time, but I guarantee the results.
Right.
Because I know it worked. Like for my autoimmune, I really very rarely get a flare up. Right. And when I do start to feel, I'm like, maybe there's some emotion that I need to work on.
Right.
Yeah.
And talk for a second also about some of that abandonment, because I do think, again, when we talk about, and I know so many of my clients have experienced, that there's trauma, right? We have to, part of where eating issues come from when we look down deep is emotional trauma, physical trauma, whatever, past traumas, some kind of something that happened to people, experiences, right? Negative experiences in their lives that have propelled them into one form of overeating, undereating, whatever that looks like.
Right.
And the abandonment work I think that you do is so also crucial for a lot of people to understand what that is. Because I just think that a lot of people are not aware of some of these things that, some tools that are available and that people actually address these things.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Sometimes we overeat because we're stuffing down. We can't be with something. We can't be with an emotion. We can't be with and a lot of times it's an emotion, but we stuff it down. So it's kind of like rotor-rooter, right? It's like you want to, unclog your drain. Right. And So again, it's about reshifting what the belief system is and creating a much more empowering belief system. But again, you can't do it from an unconscious way. You may need, support. So when I work with you and your clients, I may come in and do the shadow work, and then one of your coaches is doing the health work, because you want to really learn to teach your cells a new way of being, and you can do it. But also, I just wanted to point out that sometimes people overeat because that was their celebration.
Right.
That was their hit. So we have to teach them a new way to celebrate, even drinking, or, so it becomes like a new strategy.
Right. So obviously we're hearing, right, there's short term and obviously we're working on long term, because we know that we're in it for the long haul, right? We want to really affect change for the long haul. Right. So how long does someone have to dedicate to this kind of work to see the change that they want?
Well, I guess you've heard the expression, maybe I'm pretty sure you did, it takes like 21 days to change a habit. Right? So at least 21 days. But then after that, if you don't continue doing the work, if you don't use it, you lose it. Mm-hmm. So it's really important to create structures that are really reasonable and very realistic. So I had a client earlier that, she's like, I'm going to do something, 5 days a week for 30 minutes. And I really asked her, is that something that is realistic for you? She goes, well, if I'm home. And I said, but if you're not home, then what? So we tailored it down to twice a week, because the truth is, you want to set somebody up to succeed, so that feels good.
Yes.
You don't want, I take your internal bat and I say, I'm taking it. You are not allowed to abuse yourself anymore. And we hang it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You want to, it's very important to kind of understand the saying that you kind of want to talk to yourself the way you would your own child.
Right.
Because we abandon ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then we don't know who we are, especially when our kids are going off to college. It's like, oh my God, who am I? Now I'm unhealthy, I'm overweight, and I have no idea who I am because I've abandoned myself.
Right. And a lot of times, and we've heard this, I hear this often, it's not only, I have no idea who I am, I don't know how to start, where to start, and that's where the vicious cycle is. And yeah, you hit the nail on the head when you said it's got to be realistic, and we talk about that all the time in the work that we both do. It's setting people up in a reality that works for them and sustainable. It has to be sustainable so that they know that they can continue feeling that success that you talk about, right? So what is something that you recommend for anybody out there listening, today, who's saying, okay, I love this. This is great. How do I, where do they start?
I would absolutely recommend anybody that is interested in anything that I spoke about to watch the movie The Shadow Effect, because it really is going to answer a lot of the questions about, the mask that you're wearing and the shame that you're holding. Meryl, a lot of people that are sickly and overweight or even underweight is because there's shame.
Right.
And when somebody comes and makes peace with one of their greatest shames, their life just absolutely shines. And I could speak of that personally, okay? And this book, Debbie Ford's book, The Right Questions, I coach a lot within this book. This book is bar none, 10 simple questions that really are very, they're just so profound, but so easy and life-changing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes, right, that's the thing. It doesn't have to be difficult. We make this way more difficult, I think, this whole process of trying to be healthy and the best version of ourselves.
Right.
So how do you work with people one-on-one? Do you do groups? Tell us a little bit about the work that you do.
I work one-on-one. They're 1 hour sessions, and sometimes me and you consult. If it's one of your clients, me and you consult. So there's a team there. But I do work one-on-one, and each week that you always leave a session with a life skill. And one of the things, like, people don't have life skills. Right. And so, they go into overwhelm, and then they go into shutdown, and then they go into taking the bat off the wall and beating themselves up.
Right. And look, we're seeing a lot of that right now with this whole epidemic, right? A pandemic, and people who are stuck inside and don't have coping mechanisms. I mean, right. We're seeing a lot of the young kids we're seeing with, and so, right, put the bat away and all that. It's so true. So true. So where can people find out a little bit more about you?
They can look me up on my website, which is sharicoltune.com. They can get my number from you, or on Facebook. Yeah, on Facebook. They can, private message me. They can friend me, and even on Instagram, Shari Coltune. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's really very rewarding, Meryl, to see people, and you could do it. It seems scary, and I will tell you, sometimes in the beginning, shadow work is, I tell my clients, not for the faint of heart, but you are tethered to me, and you are going to make huge strides. I just know it. I see it. I know resistance, and it's very interesting with your clients too, to recognize what the voice of your excuses are. Mm-hmm. Because people your excuses become so ingrained in you that you don't even realize you're making them.
Right. And that's, why I love working with you, with my clients too. I mean, I can't speak enough to it, and why I'm so excited to get this information out there, because it's not like, look, all the healthcare modalities have their place in healing, but what you do and the work you do is so different than like working, let's say, with a therapist, where therapy is usually, you're in it for a long haul again, and there's a time and a place for that. But I feel like, especially when we're in this arena, and look, you and I are so passionate about what we do, and that's what I really loved about starting this YouTube channel, was the people that we're talking to are so passionate and so want to help other people. And, we're driven to do that, and it comes from our core. But that the work that you do has really, look, you work on me all the time, and I will tell you, you brought me a long way from a lot of different things. And and I'm grateful for that, because you see it in a very different light. And
I'm grateful for your willingness, right? And, you're willing to.
Yeah. And that's the thing, it's just a matter of saying, is it hard? Yeah. It's just anything that we really want to accomplish, we have to put work into. Anything that's worthwhile, the outcome we have to put work into. Nothing is just going to be like, oh yes, I'm going to sit here and it's going to come to me. So, and I talk to people about that all the time. You want to be successful at your job, at your career, you need to put work into it. You want to be a successful mother, parent, you got to work, put work into it. And it's no different with your own self. I think you're giving yourself self-care, right? We hear that a lot. Like, what is self-care versus selfish? And I think especially as women, and I know men do it too, but I think women are really hit with it a little harder, is that we feel guilt if we take care of ourselves. And this work is all about self-love and self-care. And
you really learn how to take care of yourself on such a different level. Like, if someone would have said to me years ago, you are, you're never, because I was a rageful person. I had a lot of rage inside of me. So no wonder why I had lung issues. I wasn't breathing. I couldn't take a deep breath. And I just couldn't. And I had a lot of rage. And it wasn't until I started doing shadow work that I was allowed to feel anger. Mm-hmm. You broke up. You there? Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Somehow the phone rang.
Oh, okay. That, so it wasn't until that I got into shadow work that I was like, it's okay to have anger. It's okay to feel anger. And not only was it okay, I realized that in part, I didn't even know boundaries.
Right.
So I had to learn boundaries. Now I have non-negotiable boundaries, and that's fun too. Even if somebody doesn't like it, it's still a part of you. Right? And then that's how you make peace with yourself. So I created structures. If I feel that rage, which I really don't anymore, because I made peace with it. But when I start to feel it, I'm like, oh, I have some inner work to do. And that's okay. And now I love it.
Right. And that's the right. Yeah. And recognizing that we all have work to do on some level, and it's always ongoing. And this is a great conversation. And we probably went longer than we should have, but it's all good.
I could talk a lot.
Right. We both can, right? But I think it's important information, and people want to hear it. And this certainly won't be the last conversation. And for our next one. So thank you.
Thank you, Meryl. Thank you. I so appreciate it.
And we will talk to you again soon.
Wonderful. All right. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of The Rebel Nutritionist. If you want more support and tips to help you go further with your own personal health journey, then become a Brandwine Rebel Insider. When you join my list, you'll get access to freebies such as meal planners, workshops, recipes, and so much more. Head over to brandwine.com/rebel and sign up there. I'll see you next week for another great episode. Bye for now.